So just having that realization that, something better can come out of life than just accepting the status quo or where I am right now, what was that motivation? And I also always say that the God factor was actually at play. There was something that was driving me that was not normal, because sometimes
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Living African Podcast. I have here with me a very amazing person who whose story actually is just so inspiring. I had to bring him on here. So I actually had Dr. Javnyuy Joybert come be a guest speaker at one of our African think tank mixers a couple of weeks ago. And his story was very empowering. Everyone was just raving about him during and after the event. So I just had to bring him here to share his story. It's a story of hope, it's a story of never giving up, it's a story of hard work paying off. And I'm super honored to have you here, Dr. Joybert. How are you doing today?
thank you so much, Anya, for having me. I'm doing good, and I hope you're doing great too. And thank you for having me on your amazing podcast.
Thank you so much. We're doing great over here too. So I
Okay.
just want to get straight into it. Behind every successful person, I always like to know who that person is behind the success, right? So let's start off
Yeah.
with your story growing up. What is your story?
Uh, my story may definitely be similar to the story of so many young people who grew up in a disadvantaged background. I like to call it that way, not because it is their making, but I think my story is a bit different in terms of the way I came into the world and all of that. My mom had me while she was in secondary school, in Form 4, according to the Cameroon education system, just before you write ordinary levels,
Yeah, so that's
in
about
19.
14 years old.
Yes, averagely, I think.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's when she had me, and she stopped schooling from that very moment. And yeah, that was how I came to the family, to a single mom. Grew up, never met my dad. Basically, just grew up with the father figures in my life were my two uncles,
Hmm.
my mom's younger brothers, and some men that I get to meet along the way.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was it. And for as long as I can remember, my primary school days were just basically normal. And thanks to my mom's elder sister. And the funny thing is, my mom's elder sister, many of my friends know her as my
That's your
mother,
your mom, yeah.
because she was the one who had the source of livelihood at the time that my mom gave birth to me. So she basically started taking care of me
Hmm.
at that very young age. And yeah, in the process, I went through primary school. Basically, grew up in the village before I had the opportunity to move to town in Kumbo, which is the second largest town in northwest region of Cameroon, where I did my ordinary levels. And I had the challenges that every kid will have who is coming from a low income family or a struggling family, since it was just my mom who could take care of my school fees here and there. Yeah, so it was a difficult moment. Sometimes I'm out of school, sometimes not having textbooks and here and there, because basically my mom could not afford, those needs that I had to get in school. Then from there, I moved to Bamenda, the largest city in the northwest region of Cameroon, where I did my high school. And that was where the the resilient me started manifesting, because I can say my back was against the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though in secondary school I already had the instincts of hustling. I started doing what they call truck pushing in secondary school, buying and selling here and there, just to raise some extra money for myself.
Yeah.
But I think I had to take it the extra mile when I had to leave my comfort zone, Kumbo, to Baminda for high school. There's just so much my mom could do, like just paying my school fees, making sure I can get some house rent and all of that. But survival was basically, I had to start thinking of something. How do I survive? in this strange town for my first time.
Yeah.
And that was how I started the process where I started doing odd jobs, working in building construction sites, doing some car wash and here and there, while patching that up with high school so I could see myself through and just have some basic needs.
Yeah.
While I was done with high school, I was definitely certain that I was not going to proceed to the university because my mom could not afford it. That was set. I knew it. So it was not, in high school, you start thinking of where you're going to go and all of that. My option, I knew I was going to go back to the village. So I went back to the village after high school. And while talking with my mom, she was like, you stay here and see what you can do with your life, maybe, or you go back to Bamenda and see what you can do. And till today, I always say that is one of the best discussions I had with my mom because it gave me that platform, to make that decision. So I returned to Bamenda where I did the high school. I decided to enroll in a university to do a first degree in financial management. And I have always valued education because of my mom.
Mm.
She was very conscious of education. I remember one time we were talking, just paraphrasing, she said, one of the best things that I can get is education.
Mm-hmm.
And and that alone instilled in me. I read a lot, which is a culture I got from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
I read a lot in growing with my mom. You have to always read. You're reading the Bible, you're reading books and all of that. You have to do that. So the culture of reading came from her. So yeah, that culture was there, and that desire to go to school was always there, although the means was not there.
Right.
And I did say that when I left Kumbo back to Bamenda to see what to do, I did not know where I was going to sleep. I didn't know where I was going to live. Because, like when you're going to a new town, to a new city, somebody's going to welcome you, the house where you're going to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that particular time when I went back after high school, I didn't really know where I was going to live. And for the first 7 days in Bamenda, I lived in 7 different houses
Mm.
because I will go to a commercial motorbike park. When I hear somebody speaking Lamso, it means it's somebody from my village. So
Yeah.
I just go to the person and tell the person, look, I just came from the village. I don't have where to sleep. I'm looking for one of my aunts. There was no aunt I was looking for. I was not looking for where I could live.
Yeah.
And that person would take me for the night. I would leave there for the night. And the next day, he would ask me, okay, you said you're going to stay for the night. I hope you can find your auntie now. And I'll leave. That's how I lived for 7 nights in 7 different houses with strangers I've never met.
Mm.
On the 8th day of that happening, while I was walking around the Bamenda food market, I'm just behind Commercial Avenue in the city of Bamenda, I met a longtime friend from Kumbo who used to sell secondhand dresses, and he was selling secondhand dresses. I just met him and we started selling. I assisted him and we were selling the secondhand dresses. And we did that till about 8 p.m. and we went to his house and watched a movie till about 11 p.m. He was like, are you not going home? That's what I was when I told him that I have there's no home to go to. And that was how I lived with that, my friend, for about 3 weeks. Then my best friend at the time, who was also in town, but was living with his elder sister, John Paul. That was when now he had to raise some money and we had to rent a one-room house, get a carpet, and that's how we started life in Bamenda. Then I had to go now to register at university with the plans that I was going to do all the odd jobs I can do to raise money for my university tuition fee. With that, I started doing commercial motorbike riding, what they call Okada in most African countries. When there's no, because since I didn't have a bike of mine, except somebody's off before I can get a bike. So I had to make sure I knew many bike riders so that when they're off, they can call me. Hey, I'm off. Can you take the bike and ride? When you ride, you give them their share and you take yours and you refill it and you give them the bike. So that was the special arrangement. So I would do commercial motorbike riding. When it's not there, I'm working in a car wash. When I'm not in the car wash, I'm working in a bakery to package bread, slice bread package for the supermarket. If I'm not there, there was a time I did some sales in a beer parlor here and there. So any odd job that I could do, I worked in a cyber cafe as an assistant during the night shift and all of that. So any odd job I could do, but with the purpose of saving money for
Yeah, your
my,
education,
my,
university.
my education. So I was hardly in class. So luckily I made some friends with, I shared my story with the dean, and he was very good enough to always help me. Oh, there's a CA coming up, there's a test coming up. And that was how I had to manage, to always stay updated um, with the school program, since I was always working to raise money for my program. Yeah, then that was how I lived basically for the first 2 years of my university program. And towards the third year, the last year, I was fortunate enough to get my first job as a finance clerk in a microfinance institution back in my town in Congo, where I did my secondary school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I left Banda now, back to Kumbo to start my first official job, which basically is the first and only job I ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Because after 13 months or so, that's when I resigned now to start teaching. Because while I was working in that job, I had a part-time teaching job where I was teaching marketing and business management in an evening school
Mm-hmm.
where, yeah, adults who would come, maybe workers who want to go back to school and get their national ordinary levels or advanced level. Yeah, so I was teaching there. Then there was this fulfillment that I was having when I was teaching. And I was also lecturing some part-time courses in the HND program in one of the local universities in Congo. So the fulfillment I was having while teaching was not the same I was having sitting at that desk as a finance clerk or finance assistant.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good job. And one of my dreams, my primary career dream was to be a banker, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why getting that finance job in a microfinance, even when I got the job, I was excited. I'm almost on my path,
Mm-hmm.
to with my dreams of working for a bank someday. Yeah. So, but I later resigned because I decided that I was going to focus fully on becoming a trainer and a teacher. It was during the teaching season that I discovered that there's something called a speaker's trainer, consultant. I started researching about it more and more. After 13 months of working in that microfinance, I resigned and I set up a training center called the Center for Entrepreneurship, Leadership and Business Management Development Africa, with the purpose of helping young people in the community to get employability skills and those who want to start businesses to get enterprise development skills. Because I had these complaints from different young people who could not write CVs, who could not prepare for interviews here and there. So I decided to create that institution while still teaching. And that was how my path to entrepreneurship actually started, my path to speaking and training and all of that started.
Wow.
Yeah, so among all of that crazy stuff, just trying to survive and trying to see, what I can make out of my life.
Yeah.
When I started all of that entrepreneurial journey, yeah, it was difficult because I resigned with the wrong plan. I just woke up I resigned on the 2nd of January after New Year, or was supposed to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
I did not plan to resign 2 days before. I just got up that morning. I said, no, what? Just leave this place. Everybody was surprised because I was passionate about my job. I was good at it. I was always excited to be at work. Abruptly, that change just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went through challenges. When I got my job, I was able to have my own space for the first time, my own house for the first time. And when I resigned from my job, I think 4 months later, I could not pay my bills. So I had to start living with friends here and there so as to survive the entrepreneurial journey. Yeah, in the process, everything just started unfolding, different ideas started coming, different structures started coming up. The whole COSDEF Group Limited now was formed because my dream was to create, and is still to create, that complete ecosystem where we provide the tailored solutions for individuals and institutions. Yeah, so under COSDEF Group, we have the training center for entrepreneurs and professionals who want to transition into the corporate world. Then we have the recruitment and career management firm that provide recruitment services to institutions and provide career services to individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we were training the entrepreneurs, I discovered another problem, which was some people had good ideas, but they could not start because of the finances.
Mm-hmm.
Or some came They already had small businesses, and they had the potentials of scaling and becoming very good companies, but they could not scale because they lacked the resources to scale. And that gave birth now to COSDEF, a business finance, which was to create a platform where we can rally resources and begin to finance the entrepreneurs that we are training in our community so far. So
Yeah.
far, we have been able to do a lot. Then a big part of my work, luckily over time, I was able to build a team that can handle all of these operations. I still stayed true to my passion, to my desire, which is speaking, training, and consulting a lot more. So there is the COSDEF Consulting and Training Department, which is the one that I really head. The training center has a team with the coordinator, the COSDEF Finance has a team with the manager, same for career management firm has a team with a manager. So altogether under COSDEF group at the moment we have about 17 employees in Cameroon who are managing all the operations.
Yeah.
And I started ideas, yes, supervise and just manage and just strategy and business development. But the big part of my job is speaking, traveling. So after all of that story and here and there, here am I. By God's grace, I've
Yeah.
had the opportunity to 20 plus countries, speak to different events,
Yeah.
government ministers, former presidents, top CEOs, addressing different issues that I'm passionate about and which I feel that they can play a big role in how we can advance Africa. At the beginning, my plan, the vision gets to grow. At the beginning, it started just in my small town called Congo.
Mm-hmm.
That became a national thing. Then it
Now
became
it's
a
a
continent.
global.
Now it's a global thing. So, but it's a journey of, almost 13 years of this particular journey. But yeah, so I think maybe I missed some parts
Yeah.
because
Don't worry, we're gonna
of
break it down for sure.
yeah.
Your story.
Yeah, but in summary, that is it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Your story is very empowering. Where you are right now is definitely not a representation of everything that you've been through, but
Yeah.
I would say it's the outcome of
Yeah.
everything that you have been through, which is extremely powerful. So let's go
Yeah.
all the way back, right? Let's break it down. So
Yeah.
your mom is 14 years old and she has you. Knowing our community, especially in the 90s, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how judgmental and conservative our African communities are, especially in the villages too. At least the towns were even more liberal to an extent.
Yeah.
But the villages, everyone is very conservative, everyone is very judgmental. I can only imagine the trauma that your mother went through
Yeah.
as, a teenager who's not even up to 15 years ideally and being pregnant and the
Oh,
father is nowhere to be found and stuff like that. And then you growing up, like, I just want to shed more light on your experience growing up, especially your personal experience with
yeah.
respect to your mother and also yourself. How is it like in the community with knowing that your mom was a single mother and she was that young? Like, how was she
Well,
treated by members of the community? How were you? Because sometimes, there are some people that kind of, not some people, sometimes our community, our environment kind of puts some things into our heads, right? Based on
well,
where we come from. Like a kid who is probably struggling, who's autistic and stuff like that, they label that child a fool and then that becomes their identity. They're growing up knowing that they're a fool. They're growing up knowing that a kid is a bastard. They grow up knowing that they're a witch in some
yeah.
communities in Africa. So
Yeah.
what was your experience with respect to just the community growing up with a
Yeah.
very young mother who was a single mother? How did that affect her and how did that affect you?
Yeah. I think I will start from my mom, but this is a personal assumption and conclusion. I keep planning I'm going to talk with her about that
Yeah.
because my mom is very intelligent from
Yes, definitely.
how she's very intelligent, even though she didn't have any. Today, she teaches in primary school.
Mhm.
That she's so good with teaching with no any certificates. That's
Mhm.
how intelligent my mom is.
Mhm.
But I always say that what happened gave her a big blow in herself that she didn't, when she went back to the village, she never bothered to ever come back to town. She never bothered to ever, you know, think of going back to school, really. I always feel that what happened really, hit her so hard
Yeah.
that she just cut off, life,
Yeah.
maybe her own
She didn't
dreams,
want to
and just
face
stayed.
that previous life.
Yeah, she just stayed in the village. She remarried in the village to my stepdad and all of that. And I don't, when I looked at her life, I don't think that she had that internal desire, to just try again. And she just stayed. But to some point, she's a very fulfilled woman now when I
Yeah.
get to talk to her. Yeah. For me, it was, yeah, I always say that I was the first generation wedlock kid in
Mm.
my family and probably in my community. And yeah, it was challenging because everybody knew that my stepdad was not my dad. And I went through bullying here and there from school and all of that. And yeah, there were slangs, that, where's your father? And you don't know your father, all of that from the community. Because in that community, I think my stepdad was also maybe the first person to marry a woman that is coming with a kid. So
Yeah.
it was not something that happens a lot because,
Yeah.
yeah, there was those slangs were there. I think there's something I've never shared before on any platform. I've had hundreds and hundreds of interviews,
Mm.
but I want to share this. This is something I've never shared before. One of my stepdad is of late. He died about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
One of my greatest regrets is that when we were just about to repair our relationship, then he
Yes.
passed on.
Yes.
Because that kind of, I always say, is the level of exposure and ignorance, that
Yes.
somebody has.
Yes.
The kind of stepdad son relationship or stepmom
Yes.
child relationship,
Yes.
never the best. So I I know what it means to be, treated violently and maybe beaten unnecessarily and maltreated because, you are not the true son of the
Of the
person.
man.
So,
Yeah.
and I grew up hating him. It was never a good relationship.
Yeah.
Until there was a time when mom left the village and came to city just to talk to me and said, whatever happened, I should forgive because I was still never comfortable. Even when I grew up doing my stuff, that
Yeah.
was a part I was never trying to connect to as far as that is concerned. And I have two sisters with my mom, but with my stepdad,
Hmm.
two junior sisters. That psychological violence and,
Yeah.
physical violence that was there was really, and there are some that I saw that happen. Like for example, when I was done with primary school, it is by God's grace that I left the village to the city to do my secondary school because my aunt came and forcefully took me,
Hmm.
and I never forget that night because we arrived Congo at around 1 a.m. in the night because there was like a battle. My aunt was like my mom's elder sister. This child has to go to school, even if
Yeah.
it's advanced level. This child has to get advanced level.
Yeah.
You see, but my mom and my stepdad, their plan was that I should stay in the village, be a farmer, be a carpenter. So
Yeah.
that, and they were not really, my aunt too was also struggling with her own life, her own kids and
Yes.
all of that. She wanted that I should just leave that place and see. So with all that battling here and there, it was not fun at all. Trust me, there's no fun, growing up with that kind of stigma, with that kind of
Yeah.
limited access to resources, with that lack of support, with that lack of the complete love that you should get.
Yes.
Sometimes there are some people that come from struggling homes where they have both parents.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
way different, and there's that unity, there's that support. It's a huge resource that maybe many people do not get to value. Yeah, so it was a battle in that particular phase. Yeah, but at some point the slangs were there, the abuses were there, but here we are.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, thank you for really sharing that. That really sheds more light into your experience growing up. What I can say is, from what you've told me so far, and like you also mentioned that they raised you based on what they know and the ignorance that they had. From my
yeah,
own point of view, I would think that your mom endured trauma from the city, right? And she
Mhm.
just decided to cut that part of her life off and go back to the village. And she was probably protecting you from going back to that place that traumatized her, which is the city. But then your auntie as well also had that vision for you and wanted you to at least have some level of education, which is also
Yeah.
very important. And I really feel like a lot of your story today is influenced by a lot of powerful people in their own way who had
Yeah.
such positive influence around you and really wanted to help you to see the best in you to make sure that at least you're somebody no matter how they came about it. That's
Mhm.
definitely a good experience and a not I mean of course it's you had a bad experience, more like that's a good experience to share because it just gives more insight on what you actually had to go through, especially psychologically or mentally. And I just wanted to know, how did you cope with all of that? What was your coping mechanism?
I don't think I can say I had a coping mechanism per se, because sometimes it's easier if you know that you can complain to somebody, and you will get maybe counsel, encouragement, or advice. It was never there. Maybe I just adapted, and just ignored certain things or just assume. And I think that is why, especially from my stepdad, that hatred
Yeah.
was for a very long time because of the experiences that I had with him. And since the only option was to manage what was available, that was the only home that I could really, really, know and stay in. And many a times at that time, it was not just easy to just move to another person's house, maybe
Yes.
like now. Yeah. So I think it was just adapting and just fitting in, and sometimes just enduring whatever comes, and life continues. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ironically, that's what a lot of kids had to do growing up
Yeah.
because first of all, the system doesn't give you that opportunity to seek for help in different ways. It's not even part of the culture. So once
Yeah.
you're
It's not that.
silenced, once you're maltreated, once you're
Yeah.
shut down, you just have to stay where you are and figure out a way to deal with it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
in different systems, different parts of the world, you have like counseling, you have all of these things. I mean, first of all, back then, things like counseling were probably a taboo. Like
It
you
was.
go,
It was.
you want to go see a doctor, a psychologist, or you want to go see someone to talk to you. I mean, like people will look at you as weak. Like, oh, are you the first person to go through this? Are you the first person to have a stepmother or stepfather and things like that? So I can only imagine. I definitely can relate to, or at least I can understand when you said there's really nothing you can do. You just have to suck it up and continue. Yeah,
Welcome.
thank you for sharing that. So when you moved back to the city, to Bamenda, right? Again, you know what? When you're telling me your story, I'm just thinking about how the mentality of the community was back in those days. Growing
Welcome.
up, you look, a lot of people looked down on all of these jobs like truck pushing or being a bike
Yeah.
rider, all these jobs that people do to make a living. But a lot of people
Yeah.
looked down on it. And I mean, as a student, me as a student back then, I could not even think of myself doing that kind of job because, of course, I'm going to be ashamed. I'm going to think people are looking at me a certain way. I'm going to think I'm going to meet up with one of my friends and I'm going to be
Welcome.
embarrassed and things like that. But those are the things that you actually did. You looked for, I mean, your life literally depended on it, your livelihood depended
Welcome.
on it. And you went ahead and did that with no shame, with all the passion that you have. What actually made you to choose, like, not even that, like, what was going through your mind? Like, were you thinking about, oh, why am I choosing this job over this job, or I'm going to be embarrassed? Like, what was that drive in you that led you to want to pursue other roles? I mean, of course, I
Welcome.
know that you were trying to pay your tuition, but like, what was really going on in your mind?
I think that I was just in a place where I just wanted to survive. I was just doing anything that I could do to see how to make whatever. Maybe sometimes just get daily bread, sometimes just get an installment for the next semester, and all of that. It was It was just, I always say that when you have a plan B, there is a way you behave. For some young people, their plan Bs could be, rich aunties and rich uncles
Mm.
who could step in and solve. But when you know there's nobody coming to help you, the only option, especially when you're a man, and our culture,
Yes.
you grew up knowing that as a man, you will still start having responsibilities. You will still start. There's a way that you grew up knowing you have to behave as a man. It's difficult to see somebody from the African setting just grow up and just sitting, doing nothing. That is not how we were raised. So just having that culture that you have to do something, you have to work, you have to raise something. Also coming from the village where I've been doing farming, I've been working cassava, corn, beans, all of that. So there's no way I could have just sat doing nothing. And also knowing that, again, my mom instilled in me the aspect of reading. So reading the few books I could get access to also opened up my mind. One of the first books that really challenged me that I read when I was in secondary school was The Power of Positive Thinking by Vincent Norman. One of
Mm-hmm.
the first personal development books I read. That book actually caused something in me. And just having that realization that something better can come out of life than just accepting the status quo or where I am right now, what was that motivation. And I also always say that the God factor was actually at play. There was something that was driving me that was not normal, because sometimes I would sit and I ask myself, why did you just there are many friends that we used to be in the same compound who were doing the Okada
Yeah.
commercial motorbike like me, who are doing car wash like me. They are still doing car wash today. I'm talking to you
Mm.
12 years later, 18 years later. So there was also that drive, that drive that sometimes for Christians, you can call it an ordination, everybody that God created, that person was ordained for something. And
Yeah.
sometimes there is a force that drives you to start acting in a certain way. You may not understand at that particular time, but it is a force that is a purpose, it's grace, it's a mission, there's a reason for that. And sometimes just align yourself with that particular drive that you have,
Yeah.
and you begin to pursue. And also, one thing that I understood at the very early beginning was that you cannot be proud and broke at the same time.
Mm.
You see, a kid who is ashamed not to do certain things, they definitely have a better background and they have a reason for feeling like that. But you have no reason. You are a nobody already. So why are you proud?
Mm.
Right? So, and I always like to say that our fight, we have different fights. My fight is different, your fight is different.
Yeah.
You see, I'm fighting a totally different battle. I did a master class titled How to Win from the Place of Disadvantage. And I was targeting young people from low income families,
Yes.
to show them the things that I did that they could also do to rise to the top. And one of the things I was teaching them to realize is understand that your fight is different. You see, and when you're starting life, I said when I was starting life was leading me like 7 goals to nothing, right? Like in
Mm.
football,
Mm-hmm.
I was already at a disadvantage. Number one, a single parent. Number two, born in a village. Number three, poor income family. I was already at a disadvantage, like 7 different disadvantages against me.
Yeah.
If I'm born in a village and you're born in Lagos, we are not fighting the same fight. You are
Yeah.
born into area with more resources and
More
more exposure.
opportunity.
If you are born into a family with 2 parents, I like to call family lottery,
Yeah.
and I'm born to single parents or my parents die when I'm young, we are not having the same fight. You have access to more support than I have. And this is something that if people can understand, if young people can understand, especially, there'll be no need for comparison. There'll be no need for being ashamed to do certain things, because you understand that, look, even though you are age mates or in the same class, in the same area, where you're coming from is totally different. And that alone should change the way you look at life and the way you act in life,
Yeah.
because your fellow young people are going to the club every weekend doesn't mean they should go to the club. If you're taking your livelihood money to go to the club and they're taking their allowance to go to the club, those are two
Yeah.
different
Those are two different
people,
things. Yeah.
right? Yeah. So these are things that I understood at a very, very early age during those days. And and again, my mom is a very disciplined woman, very disciplined. Even my aunt, very disciplined. And so the things that they instilled in me played a big role. I remember one time I was moving with my mom's elder sister. Young people were playing this snooker and what they call baby foot or gambling, where they put money and play different types of games.
Mm-hmm.
And she held my ears and said, "The day I see you here, you're finished. You're going to win 1,000."
You weren't even there
And it,
yet, and she was already
yeah,
warning you.
there are things that I grew up never doing because of that thing that my mom instilled in me,
Yeah.
at that very young age. I don't drink alcohol because of that. It was totally forbidden. My
Mm-hmm.
mom is so that there was a time that one man sent me to buy cigarettes. It was a different battle between my mom and that man.
Mm.
You see, so those kind of things, like for example, you don't come to the house after 6 p.m. Even
Yeah.
till today, that I live in most areas, I don't like late nights. I feel very uncomfortably out at night because it
Yeah.
was a taboo to do that. So those things also played a role when I was now alone in that Banda, where I could go to the clubs as much as I want. I could do whatever I want to do. I was not raised that way. There was no
Yeah.
possibility. That's why I always say that there's a way that if you raise your child, that child will never be stranded anywhere,
Mm.
because they will always find a way out to survive and to thrive, right?
Yes.
There was a time, it was a Christmas period, and my mom made a statement and said, I didn't have Christmas dresses and so on. I don't know what happened, but she made a statement. I'm paraphrasing English. She spoke in a local language, and she said, "Because we don't have, that does not give you the right to steal."
Mm-hmm.
You see, and again, being a Christian, and all of that. So those things also played a big role into making me into who I am to today as a person. Because I think the most dangerous time in the life of a child is when that child is alone
Yes.
and can decide what to do, when to do, and how to do it.
Yes.
That is when you know whether your parenting was proper or not. I know
Yes.
some parents will do their best and some kids will still misbehave, because I know many friends, many high school people, many neighbors that came from villages too, or from different towns to come and study, and they were not doing what they came to do.
Yeah.
You see, so you could see guys misbehaving, police coming to arrest guys because they had a gun or they had marijuana, they had hard drugs. We used to see that almost every day around the old town area in Bamenda,
Mm-hmm.
Tamalo, all of those things happen almost every day.
Sure.
Yeah. So it, that that upbringing also played a critical role in the drive that I had in hustling and doing all the odd jobs to see what I could make out of myself.
Right. So thank you very much for sharing that story. I mean, even the Bible says, train a child the way they should go and they will never depart from
Mm.
it, right? I personally can attest to that because there are so many lessons that my parents taught me. And
Yeah,
when I came over here, I came to America as a teenager. I literally graduated high school and then I came here all the way by myself. And I found myself in quite a lot of circumstances and situations that, if not of the lessons that my parents taught me, I
yeah,
definitely would have been influenced, and
absolutely.
I totally give them all the credit and I thank them for all of that. That's why it's very important. Even me as a parent, I start teaching my child less good lessons and the way they should go at a very young age because I forgot where I read that, but a child's first 9 years of their life, it's the most important years that they soak up all the values that they need for the rest of their lives, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's very important again, and thank you so much. Thank your mom for instilling all those values in you, because basically those values are what make you today, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
let's talk about your time in university. And so you go to you're still doing all the odd jobs and trying
But
to raise funds for your school and stuff like that. How did you manage in school with all of that? Because in Cameroon,
wow.
it's quite unusual for the typical student, especially the university student, to work at the same time going to school, talk less of doing all the multiple odd jobs and stuff like that.
Well, it was challenging, very, very challenging. But I think that the upper hand that I had was that I was reading the business course and I've always been passionate about business and all of that. And when it comes to reading, I am very good at reading and understanding quickly if
Mm-hmm.
I just get to read it. So I use that to my advantage while I was in school. And secondly, I got used to using computers and the internet very, very early. As
Mm-hmm.
I said, I had the opportunity to be a cyber cafe assistant. That helped me a lot. Actually, one of the deals that I had with the owner of that cyber cafe was he's going to pay me half, and half actually begged him for the job
Mm-hmm.
because I knew that I needed the internet for further research. Since I could not get all the notes from school, or be able to buy all the handouts. So my only access was to leverage on Google, and I could only get access to the internet. Mobile phones by then were not as what we have
Yeah.
today. So
Yeah.
you can only go to a cyber cafe before you can get access to a computer and all of that. So the agreement was that he'll pay me part, and then part was that since I was getting access to the internet, and then that was it. So I used to get access to a lot of resources. I just used to get the course outline or the topics and all of that, copy, do research, copy, put on Microsoft Word and saved, and I'll begin to study as much as possible. So that was how I was managing it. And it was difficult, yes, but it was also possible. And anytime that there was a CA or anytime there was an assignment, I made a lot of friends. And again, I had there's this dean that just took me like a son, and he saw my desire and what I was trying to do, and he made sure that he'll be updating me, especially with CS and important things that I need to know
Mm-hmm.
as far as the business department was concerned. And then friends too were helping me to just update me, text messages or Facebook, messages at
Yeah.
that time. This is up, this is up, this is up, and that was how I was surviving. Yeah, I missed some CAs and I had to retake them, but it was part of the price to pay.
Right, right. Wow. That's very impressive, man. I mean, you're definitely a hustler for sure, and just goes to show again that your background, where you come from, has nothing to do with where you want to go.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Because where you want to go, you can make that happen regardless. Now, as an entrepreneur, how has that journey been so far for you? From when you started to where you are right now, and what keeps driving you?
The journey was kind of challenging, like most entrepreneurs would say. But I always say that I think that I am fortunate enough to how I grew up contributed a lot to how I do entrepreneurship. Because there are many people that come from the place of comfort and they get into business. And business is not easy. It's very uncomfortable. It's challenging. It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that where I left from and the way I grew up prepared me for the path of entrepreneurship. Because as I am right now, there's no failure that can surprise me. None. There's no there's no pain. Like I've seen it all at my level, but there's still nothing that really surprised me. I mean, to feel pain that oh what no, because with all the struggles and the pain I've gone through, I have basically seen it all,
Yeah.
you know, at my level, and that helped me a lot. And there's a small part of my story that I did not share, which was when I left high school. Before that happened, I was looking. There was this direct sales company where they'll post on the streets that they're looking for salespeople and all of that. They'll train you. So I did direct sales for about 6 months, where you go, they train you, they give you products to move door to door and begin to sell.
Mm-hmm.
In Cameroon, they popularly call it DS Max.
Mm.
Yeah. So I did that a lot. And I always say that one of the best things that happened to me in making me a better entrepreneur was direct sales. Carrying a product in your bag and moving door to door to sell and to convince people, total strangers to buy, that helped me a lot as an entrepreneur. When I was doing that, I remember many times that you will leave the office at 8 a.m. and you have to come back at 4 p.m. And for those number of hours, you will not sell a single product.
Mm.
So I know what it means to be rejected. I know what it means to talk to 50 people in a day and nobody buys a product for $1.
Mm.
right? So all of those things helped me a lot. The fear of failure is one of the least things that I can talk about when it comes to entrepreneurship. It's no concern because I always say that I have experience in failing over and over. And I have experience in not getting things easy. You
Yeah.
see, I have experience in everything that I got in life. It was extra hard work than an average young person will get. You see, so that built in me a certain level of resilience and willingness to take risks and to try and all of that. So that contributed a lot to the work that I do as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Wow. And with COSDEF, right? I want us to also, talk more
Yes.
about it as well because I feel like it's
Very,
something very, very visionary, and you're just getting started. And
very.
also, how do you even run something like that in Cameroon? Like I'm just trying to know because the system is quite complex, right?
Mhm.
And there are so
Yeah.
many things I would imagine that just the way the system is built, they do not accommodate ideas as such. Or even if you have to do that, it's going to
Yeah.
take an arm and a leg to get your
Very,
way
very.
through. So, how do you
Yeah.
even leverage all of that?
Yeah. Again, our ecosystem in Cameroon is not ideas friendly, is not innovation friendly or business friendly. But at the same time, as entrepreneurs, it is our responsibility to figure it out. I always say that if you are running a business in Africa, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, you need to learn how to be a chief figuring officer. You're always figuring out things
Hmm.
because it's a very complex, fragmented market, from high corruption to bribery to poor policies or terrible civil servants in different offices. It's just crazy. But when you are determined, when you understand why you're doing what you are doing, it plays a big role in who you're going to become or in what you're trying to build. One of the most important things is to know your system, right? Even in the United States or in the UK, in Canada, wherever you are, no matter how perfect a system is, you are only going to make good use of the system if you study and know how to use the system. So because
Yeah.
the system is good, has good policies, doesn't mean that it's going to just work for you.
Mm.
You need to leverage, understand it, and use it to your advantage as an entrepreneur. So it's the same thing with Cameroon. It's tougher, yes, but we can learn it. We can learn the way things are done here, and we can also introduce better ways of doing things. We can also influence the culture. We can also do what they call culture shaping because everybody grew up bribing and corrupting or doing things in a poor way doesn't mean that we should also do it the same way.
Yeah.
When you understand that you are a disruptor, you are a contributor, you start introducing certain things in a way that can bring some change. And it is something that we need to be intentional about in Africa. If you are doing anything in Africa, you are not just a business person. You are a contributor, you are a culture shaper, you are a disruptor. It could be just as simple as disrupting the way people look at things. For example, there are a couple of things I'm known for in Cameroon, which is, for example, time management. When I do a lot of events, paid events, free events,
Hmm.
and I have this tradition that if you come 15 minutes late to my event, the door is locked and you're not refunded.
Mm.
And there's a very odd policy in Cameroon people know about Joybert. In Joybert, that events don't come late. If you
Yeah.
come late, it's late, you are not coming in.
Yeah.
Even two people that want to train the two people and the rest go. When we started it years ago, it was not easy, it was not fun.
Yeah.
However, the culture now spread. Even other trainers started developing the concept and they are using it. I remember a particular document I was looking for one time, and they wanted me to pay bribes to get that document.
Yeah.
You know, in Cameroon, there are many documents we used to get, you have to pay bribe.
Hmm.
I made up my mind that I would not pay bribe, and I was going to go to that office every Monday. I went to that office every Monday for 1 year. That man got angry
Whoa.
and gave he got angry and gave me the documents
Wow.
for 1 year every Monday. I'll go and ask and sit and wait. I thought he would turn. They don't tell you directly.
Yeah.
People to just give man something I will give you. People some people will come and take the same document, mine will not be given. So I've made up my mind that I will not pay bribe. I will not give you a franc. And I was coming there every Monday for 1 year, and he gave me that document.
Hmm. Wow.
You see, one of the things I'm going to do is that I'm not going to pay bribe. I'm not going to give bribes in Cameroon.
Yeah.
There are things I lost in Cameroon because I refused to pay bribes. There are things that maybe some training contracts, some consulting contracts, and all of that. They'll give me a condition. I say, I'm not doing that. So you want to lose this money for that? I say, I am not doing it. And I always fondly say, before you came, I'm doing okay, I'm living,
Yeah.
I'm breathing. So you're also away from me.
Yeah.
So when we understand certain, I always tell, or the speak to entrepreneurs in Cameroon or other African countries, I always tell them, please, you are not just business people, you are disruptors, you are contributors. And we are not going to wake up one time we inherited a funny continent, a funny country
Yes.
from our parents,
Yes.
but our children cannot inherit the same thing from us. Then it is one of our major failures as a people, as a generation. So, yeah, it's tough, but I also feel that if more people can advocate, more people can talk about this, more people can take little actions in little areas, there's going to be a lot of shaping that will contribute to us having a better continent and a better country.
Wow. That's very powerful, and that's very true. What other ventures are you into? I know you have the COSDEF, and then can you briefly talk about your speaking engagements?
Yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of speaking engagements from the areas of entrepreneurship to business strategy, market entry. I speak a lot on team productivity and personal development and productivity here and there, investments and so on. So it could be individuals, companies, conference organizers, seminars, communities, associations. Yeah, wherever I've just basically been everywhere, but around these niches that I have spoken about, but anything around business, I did talk a lot about it, the economy, yeah, in general. Yeah, so it depends. I've had the privilege to do all of this across the Middle East, North America, uh, Africa predominantly. It's about two countries in Europe. Yeah, three. Yeah, so um, it's a great thing, and I always get excited to have the opportunity to share because I believe that one of the best ways to shape the society better is to exchange ideas and perspectives,
Right.
and come together and create more value that can contribute to different industries. Yeah. So apart from that, one of the things that I'm talking a lot about now is getting the African diaspora to invest back in Africa. So
Yes.
it's one of the new topics that I've added into my speaking engagements, which I look for opportunities to talk about a lot because there need to be a shift, in how it is being done. In the last couple of years, the mainstream have been money living here for consumption purposes,
Mm-hmm.
and not because the people in diaspora do not want to invest or build things, but there are a lot of discrepancies back at home, and there's a lot of disconnect with them here. So creating that platform, the structure, the process is going to help a lot. Yeah, so I'm working a lot on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very very important actually, and I can definitely talk based off of experience, right? We have tried
Mm.
through the years. I have personally tried, and even my family has tried several times to
Yeah.
invest in Cameroon, even from people who used to be here in America and move back. And you would think that, hey, they have a different mindset, they're more reliable, they have much more
Yeah.
integrity, they're not trying to get into the system, but they literally go back and they join and get into the system. Actually, they are even worse than the system because they take advantage of those who are back here in the
Yeah.
diaspora. So it's been very
Yeah.
challenging investing back home, and it's also very discouraging. So I honestly
Yeah.
feel like if there's an outlet or if there is a means for that to happen successfully, a lot more people in the
Yeah.
diaspora would love to invest. Because I would definitely say, as someone who's leading the African think tank here in the Houston chapter, or in the Houston area, there's so many Africans who are hungry to invest back. I mean, we
Exactly.
have been here for so long, we have seen how the system works here, and we definitely will want to piggyback the system from here back home to
But
Africa
yeah.
to improve our people, to improve our systems. But
Yeah.
again, finding that means to do that successfully is the problem. Finding the
Yeah.
people who are more trustworthy, who have integrity, who are accountable, it's extremely challenging. So, can you just further elaborate on what you're actually doing towards making that better and possible?
Yeah, one of the things that we are doing is number one, the first institution I created in 2011 12 is the Training Center for Entrepreneurs and training young people for employability skills. So we have seen entrepreneurs, we have trained thousands and thousands of people who have started already and those who are still to start.
Mhm.
And so we have that community and being a recognized stakeholder also in the entrepreneurship ecosystem, not only in Cameroon, but in Africa, there are other hubs that we have access to,
Mhm.
accelerators, business hubs, other training centers. So we have access to these people who have the ideas and the talents, but they don't have the resources and even the experience. Like I always say, there are two major things that the diaspora can export back to Africa. First of all, the experience and the technical expertise,
Mhm.
and then the financial resources. Because $1,000 here is just $1,000.
Yeah.
Back in Cameroon,
It's
it's
like
500,000,
500,000.
and that is enough startup capital for a good idea, or that's enough money for somebody to start, and maybe another $1,000 can enable a good business to start running. You
Mhm.
see, and that $2,000 may just look at $2,000 today, but 5 years from now, it can be worth $100,000.
Yeah.
You see, it can be worth $300,000. I have seen it happen over and over with the startups that we have worked with. The little amount of money in less than no time, growing up to becoming very, very valuable
Yeah.
as a system or as an institution. So we have that. And then we have the people that we have trained. We have people that we know and we train. And we have a way that we train our people. We don't just train on skills. We'll talk about character, integrity, and lifestyle that talks about posterity and all of that, contributing to preparing the talent that is not just skillful, but the talent that has the right heart and the right mindset, the right kindness, integrity, those
Values.
foundational
Yeah.
human values that makes the society better. So we focus on that. And apart from that, with our team back home that can do supervision, that can do follow-up. Many people are here who feel difficult to invest back at home because when they send money back at home, the best they can do is sit from here and try to supervise.
Yes.
But since it's very difficult to do that, and since if you recruit somebody just online or through recommendation, you basically know the person, and the person can mess up and steal or do what they do. It becomes challenging. But our people also, there's a way that they look at life in terms of micromanaging, in terms of you using the hard way of getting them to do things. I always say that when it comes to that, you use it, you see,
Yeah.
and you get them the job and you pay them and you get their things done. So that also we have it, and not that we have the institution. That is why we are creating these, especially the financial institution, so that it makes it easier for the financial resources to be managed and the way that you can also manage it. For example, there's the apps that we're working on that if you send your money for projects and how it's used, you can track from being in the US or anywhere in the world.
Mm.
And you can have real-time updates of your business or the project that we are working on. So we're just trying to create that complete ecosystem where if you need a new idea, we can have somebody who has a new idea that fits your industry. If you're looking for an already existing business, there will be that existing business that we can say, okay, look, partner with this person, become a co-founder and be the founder, and that can happen. And while you're doing that, there is a finance institution that can help you manage your resources, even give you further loans if you need it to make it grow. So it's a young vision, but we have recorded some successes. We have many businesses that came to us with just the ideas, but now they're operating with 2, 3 staff.
Yeah.
We have some that also 2 staff that they have 10 employees.
Yeah.
You see, so we have recorded some successes at a very early age. But where we are going to now, there's a next phase that we are unveiling now is to create that platform where people in the diaspora can seamlessly invest back home and have control of their investment. That's
Yeah.
why one of the major reasons that I have been frequenting the US recently was mainly because of that. For example, getting the LSs registered and all that, so that we can
Yeah.
have a legal, transparent structure. There is no hidden stuff. There's no know me and know you discussions. No, we
Yes.
want to do it legally structured, document signed. You know your responsibilities. We know ours. We have objectives. We have outcomes, and we're good to go. Yeah. And again, we are also preparing a lot of businesses that can be funding ready, you see, so that you people can become silent investors. Okay, this is the business, the good co-founders, good team members, good systems, this way they are. If you invest $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, this is what you get as equity. This is where you are going to be in the next 5 years, and all of that. So all of these things are happening. We will be unveiling them with that's why I'm also targeting. I was happy to connect with the African think tanks. We are trying
Yes.
to link up with other African diaspora networks, associations, cultural groups, so that when the time comes, we can visit these people and do proper presentations
Sure.
and let them, okay, this is how to go about it. Because the goal is just to create that seamless, transparent, legal, effective structure
Mm-hmm.
that if you are getting your hard-earned money, you know that this is worth it, and the system that we have put in place can help you achieve what they're doing. That even special projects, we started working on that.
Yeah.
We have had stories of people sending money back at home for housing and land. They've never seen the land, they've never seen the house,
Yeah.
right? So we are creating a better project management platform to also help people to do that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's definitely something that I will be willing to further explore, especially through the African think tank. So, how can people reach you to, how can people contact you, or at least how can people support any projects that you may be having currently? I know you have a couple of books as well.
Yes. I have a couple of books. My books people can get them on Amazon. Just type javnyuyjoybert.com. Javnyuy Joybert on Amazon, you will get the books.
Yeah.
And from our website is joybert.com, and you will see other information that you can contact me. But I'm very, very much available on social media. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the fastest ways that you can get me, and I quickly reply. We can pick up the discussion from there. I'm available to speak across different events in the United States or wherever
Yes.
that somebody needs me. Yeah, for projects we have, there are projects that we have in terms of people can support. For example, we have just free employability training program where we select young people and we train them for free, and people get to support us with financial resources so we can train more people and provide them more resources and didactic materials.
Yeah.
And we have been doing that for about five years or so. So if somebody would like to support us to train more young people, not just in Cameroon, we have done Nigerians, Tanzanians, Liberians, Ghanaians, almost all African countries.
Yeah.
We can do that. The more we can, for now, we also like to build a more sophisticated platform to train them easily, which is part of the plan that we're working on. Yeah, so we are training a lot of young people to become more employable
Right.
and get them access to digital tools and platforms that can make them very employable in this dispensation. We are also doing that. And that's one of our major free programs that we're doing with the help of sponsors and people who just see what we're doing and they chip it to support. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to have all the information as well in our show notes. Now, you've had such an amazing journey so far, and I'm sure you're just getting started. So, what are the lessons that you have learned through your experience from when you were growing up back in Kumbo to now that you would like to share with our audience?
Man, there are so many. And
Let's
I
just
think
say,
that
what are
one of
like
the,
three lessons, three or four lessons?
well, one of the reasons I write a lot of books because I like, what's the best way I can just pour my heart so I get to write a lot of these books here and there. The number one lesson is it's very important to be spiritual, to have God. It's very important. That's the first lesson because I always said I think my life started making meaning when I discovered the power of having a relationship with God because accountability is
Yeah.
very powerful, and living life knowing that there is somebody who is expecting a lot from you. I always say that the life you and I have right now, the oxygen, the being alive right now is God's gift to you and I. But what we do with being alive is our own gift back to God and to the society,
Hmm.
right? And this mindset makes me accountable a lot. So I look at God in that direction a lot and just growing in understanding, the ways that He expects us to live makes it very easy. Number two is skills. Skills are very, very important. Skills, skills, skills. I always say that if you want to go to the next level, acquire the skills that the next level requires. And skill is the equalizer.
Yeah.
If you are so good at what you do, your background does not matter. It doesn't matter whether you're an orphan, you're from a single parent, you're from the village, nobody cares. What they care is the value that you can bring to the table, to the marketplace, or to the institution.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say that one of the fastest ways that young people can beat poverty who are from low income families is for them to become so good that they cannot be ignored.
Yeah.
You see, skills, consistent skills acquisition, upgrading, reskilling is very important.
Yeah.
Number three is always believe in future possibilities. Don't use your present dispensation and conclude on your future. There
Mm.
are many people that have
Yeah.
used maybe during the days that they were down, they were rejected, they had no money, etc. They just concluded on themselves. And I always said, I think that's one of the major reasons that people quickly get into depression, and think of suicide because they use what they are going through at that moment and they conclude their next 50 years
Yeah.
as if it will be the same. But that is not it.
Yeah.
Because you're in a mess now, because whatever they have done, whatever has gone wrong, because you are in it now, doesn't mean that will be your daily life for the next 30 years or 50. No, it doesn't mean that. That is just what you are there, you are going through now, probably because of bad habits and bad decisions. And it also means that if you start changing certain things now, you have a
Yeah.
better life tomorrow or the
Tomorrow.
next couple of weeks or the next couple of months. So no matter what I am going through, I always believe in future possibilities. This too shall pass. This
Mm.
time is going to pass.
Yeah.
And it's not going to remain your reality for 10 years, 5 years. Even the next week is not going to remain your reality.
Yeah.
So learn to believe in future possibilities and don't use your present circumstance to judge or believe
Determined.
that that is how the rest of your life will be. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so, so, so much for sharing all of this. It's been such a pleasure having this conversation with you. I've learned so much from you. I've learned so much from your story, and I still hope to learn even more from you. I appreciate you coming on here, sharing your story, and empowering the members of our community. And I hope that this conversation does not end here. And I hope that we all take the story, take the lessons, and spark conversations within our circles and
Absolutely.
find ways to improve our life, find ways to be inspired, find ways to be better. Once more, I just want to
Absolutely.
thank you so much. And I will
Thank you.
catch you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
Thank you.
you.